Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Ajahn Krab, Chatam. I was gonna ask you.
อ๋อเหรอคะสวัสดีค่ะค่ะค่ะค่ะเชิญค่ะคุณแม่สบายดีค่ะสบายดีค่ะสบายดีใช่ค่ะ
Getting married soon.
Yes.
Yes.
Getting married the end of the year, November the 9th. To invite you. Maybe
December?
This year.
November.
I'm flying over from Kuwait too for the weekend.
Yeah.
Bangkok Royal Sports Club, right?
Yes.
I would like very much, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yes. So the venue is actually at the Polo Club.
Polo.
At the Polo Club.
Polo Club. Yeah. So I'd like to invite you as well.
Can wear
Okay.
full, whatever you need to do it.
So,
Yes, I was gonna ask. Also, when you say I am seeing, is that also Sakaya Ditti?
certainly.
I am seeing, I am
And
hearing.
before that, no matter any time, it's always me.
Right.
Not just only when I'm going to ask. Now I'm seeing.
Right. Krab.
Talking about Atta Niditi, and say we talked about roses. Is it? I find it helpful to think about kalapas as well, and the fact that kalapas so tiny, there's spaces between, and they also, because rupa, they also instantly fall away. So when we're seeing a rose, knowing about the kalapas, there's really, it's so impermanent and so on.
It's good to have such interest and
Yes.
firm understanding
Right.
because the kalapa can be directly experienced when it's the third vipassana yana.
Yeah. Okay, that's something.
But if there's no such firm understanding, it's impossible
So knowing about the kalapas is very useful in this way.
because if there's no understanding of the succession of the realities arising and falling away, there's no idea for sati to develop and panya to develop. So that's why the pariyati, when it's so firm, it is satyayana, and it can condition moment unexpected, like Sariputta, unexpectedly. So it depends on understanding and no expectation for the realization of Ariya Satya. But without that, impossible. It's impossible to have the vipassana yana.
So that pariyati, those details of pariyati, help to be the basis for future
To
satipatthana.
understand
Yes.
and see that actually there's no self.
Yes.
But the self is there, very deeply rooted. So even so, there must be some moments, or rather many moments thinking about that. So the understanding just pop up. So another word in Pali, pop up. Upati. No, it is.
Well, you can say arising.
Yeah, another word for it in Pali, panya just pop up. Anytime, like now. Now there's thinking popping up, but no one knows the moment when it pop up, right? But when it's vipassana, the reality appears so well, and when whatever pops up, it knows that there must be condition for its arising. Now we're talking just about everything is conditioned to arise, but nothing appear one by one.
But in vipassana yana, it appears clearly.
As Buddha said, exactly, each word.
But the meaning of kalapas is not so much that they are very small. But
Yes, but panya can experience.
But panya doesn't. The panya that no kalapas, no, for example, hardness.
Why not?
Hardness conditioned by heat, and heat is
Is
conditioned by.
does the feeling has kalapa? Does feeling also have kalapa?
No. Feeling.
Everything is nimitta now,
Feeling have kalapa.
but not like rupa. Rupa is used for kalapa,
Yes.
but many kalapas rising and falling away, and now any kind of feeling which appear arises and fall away. So it can appear such and such feeling.
Right, but even we talk about Satipatthana, the understanding the nature, the characteristic of the object. So when we talk about kalapa, we're not saying that how small it is, we're just saying that earth element hardness is conditioned by heat, by other Mahabhuta Rupas. And
Does it arise and fall away?
It arises.
Can
But
it?
it's just the understanding.
But as it is like that, and there is understanding that way, can that appear more apparent, clear?
Can appear, but I believe it's not like just one kalapa, but it's
We
Like
use the word kalapa for rupa, and what word would we use for nama? As like kalapa, but we don't have any word to use for its arising.
so
It's
you're
one by
saying
one.
that if the understanding of nama can be in terms of one nama, so can rupa.
No,
Understanding of rupa
no.
can mean
Even when take it for one, it's the nimitta.
it's the nimitta, right?
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter whether one is experienced because it's understanding
Impossible.
which understands.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't experience one kalapa. That would, but nevertheless, knowing that what we take for a rose comprises trillions of kalapas
But is
arising
that-
and falling.
That's what I'm questioning. Is that the kind of understanding?
It's theoretical.
The
And
second Vipassana jnana?
the nama is much more quicker than that. More kalapa, if you don't use the word of really like vedana or sanya right now. Because the rupa is coarser than the nama to be known.
But
Like
still,
now.
even when it's nama, it's not
One
thinking about many. It's just thinking about the characteristic of
which appear as
appear, yeah.
nimitta.
whether how many nobody counting. So same with kalapa, it's not like it knows that many. It just knows that it's one kind of rupa conditioned by other kinds of rupa.
But not one. That's why we use the word kalapa. See, 8 at least, but many unit.
Meaning 8 rupa minimum in each kalapa.
Yeah, 8.
Maybe we can explain, Akhil, what kalapa means.
Robert, yes.
Because the rupa don't arise
So-
singly, they always arise in groups.
Taking something like a rose, according to Theravada theory, there are actually trillions and billions of kalapa that make up what we think of as a rose. And it sounds a little bit like atomic theory, except that these kalapas instantly fall away and re-arise again due to temperature. So it's we think this rose lasts, but actually it's almost nothing. It's just these kalapas arising and falling. Kalapa. Yeah. And kalapa is, it's a group of rupa which includes motion, heat, water, what is not the right word? What's the word? Cohesion that makes up each kalapa. Okay, so it's like a very sophisticated atomic theory, basically.
And why do we see the same kalapa?
Why
Does
So
it
we-
appear the same?
Why does it appear the same?
we each see this red rose? You mean? Yeah, because each kalapa is different from the others. So the kalapas that make up this orange, the intensity is slightly different from the kalapas that make up the rose. So therefore, the one of the rupa in the kalapa is colour. So the colour will be more. There'll be a variable there that will make it orange or make it red, make it appear orange or red. Yeah. So that's why you don't think this is a rose, you know it's an orange. And everyone does.
I mean, yeah. So why do?
Why is a rose seen as a rose and not suddenly as an orange? Is that what you mean?
And each of us see that same rose.
Yeah, because this is the reality. These kalapas that make up this orange are realities. So even though orange is a concept, behind the concept, or as there are actual kalapas that are real. Even though they're tiny and even though they're falling away instantly, they are real. That's the difference between reality and concept. So it's kind of a crucial distinction. And that's why I love Ajahn books, Concepts and Reality, which describes.
And even rupas, they're conditioned by each other. The heat element, as your father was referring to, determines the color, the harden, even the other arisen rupas, the nature of that rupa. So in the case of an orange, why it appears to be an orange and continues to be an orange, because of those elements, they condition each other in the same way, more or less, right? And in a rose, the same way.
And 2 weeks later, if this orange was left here, the colour will be slightly different. Because even though it's changing instantly, we can't see those instant changes. But over a period of a week or a month, we can see that, yeah, there has been big changes. But actually, it's happening much faster than we realise. So the Dharma's reality and concept agree. That's why, like in the Abhidharmata Sangaha, it says, the concept is the shadow of the realities. We always look at the shadows, but the Dharma gets us into the actual realities.
You see only shadow. What condition the kalapa?
In the rose?
Anywhere, anything.
There's 4 conditions. Possible conditions.
But what condition is there?
What are they?
There's chitta.
Chitta cannot condition
No.
it.
Well, for that one, it's only
Heat.
temperature, right?
Right.
Temperature, yeah.
So the temperature condition each kalapa.
Yeah. In Rupa only, yeah.
And what about each of the Mahabhuta rupas, say, different intensities of water element also conditioning the other rupas in the kalapa?
When it's separated, just one, conditioned by Utu.
For example, let's say something with low cohesion, low water element, very soon it'll disintegrate
By Utu.
by Utu.
I remember Ajahn, once you said, if we look at the material world, like all the Rupa we see, like oranges, bananas, and so on and so forth, we see so much variety. And that's only Tiju as the condition. But when you think about Chitta, there's so many more conditions for Chitta. So how much more varied must be Chitta than even Rupa?
I mean, no one in this room will think the same about the same orange, right?
We see the same orange, but we think
What
about
we think differently
Slightly
about it.
slightly different.
So this kulapa is for the forms or for the
It's for form. It's rupa.
Yeah.
and what about the sound and light?
They're
Also-
rupa. They're all rupa.
Yes.
They're 28 rupas.
Sound is one of the rupas in a kalapa, in some kalapas.
No, sir. It's having the structure. Sound
So
and
sounds-
light is not having any structures.
Without, if the hardness cannot come bang
Yeah.
like this, there cannot be
So,
sound.
not every kalapa, but
Yeah,
some kalapas.
yeah. It condition
Yes.
the new kalapa, which is sound.
Yes.
And each time there's sound, there must be other rupas arising with it. Although its sound is only heard by hearing, and what's seen is visible object,
Exactly.
right? But when sound is heard, nothing is seen, nothing is touched, nothing is listening. But if there's what's seen, there's no hardness, no softness at that being experienced, but they're there. So same with sound, when it's heard, the other rupas are there also.
In the kalapa, there's 8 other rupas that are present, as well as the sound, even though the sound is experienced.
The forms contains the n numbers of kulapas.
No, kalapas refer to rupas that arise in a group, must arise in
That
a
is a
group.
form.
Like chitta arises with chetasikas,
Exactly, sir.
like seeing has to rise with at least 7 chetasikas all the time, has to rise every time with 7 chetasikas. So same with rupas, there are rupas
You have to rise with kulapas.
with
Yes.
no, rupas are kalapas.
Rupas ask kulapas.
Each rupa is conditioned by other rupas. Like the earth element is conditioned by the heat element, and the heat, they must arise together. There cannot be earth element without water element or heat element or the wind element. These are the 4 primary rupas, and they must rise with 4 other rupas for sure. One is taste, one is smell,
Touch.
one is visible object, and one is nutritive essence. So we can see that every rupa does not arise alone.
It has to combine with others. Sir.
It has to, yes.
Combine with others.
That's why they're called conditioned realities. That's why chitta, chetasika are conditioned realities, and rupa is also a conditioned realities. You can't have visible alone. When visible has arisen, you can understand that together it arose with other rupas also. Same with hardness. If there's the experience of hardness, you know that at that moment there would be other rupas also, but they're not appearing, because what's appearing through the body door can only be one of the 3 and one at a time. Only.
Thanks, sir.
Got it.
Does it help?
Yes, sir.
But it helps to break down the idea of solidity, because we think things are so solid and real, but they're not that real and not that solid. They're very impermanent, very almost nothing, but they are real. They're very evanescent.
Sir, these kulapas make the sense of the. It's not an object. It's a kulapas. It's rupa. Is kulapas. Lot of n numbers of kulapas. We touch. We feel hardness, softness. Sir, hardness and softness are the senses.
See, like seeing
Huh.
experiences visible object, hearing hears sound, touch touches hardness, softness, touch touches heat or cold, touch motion or pressure. So the touch is the chitta. The object with hardness, softness is not the chitta, it's the rupa that's being experienced. Same as sound is the rupa which is heard. The hardness is a rupa that's being touched.
It's been experiences.
Yeah, the experience is touch.
We can't call it senses.
The sense, if you want to be precise, sense we can refer to the base, the sense base, like the body sense. The body sense is the base for the experience of hardness, softness, heat, cold, motion, pressure. Through the body sense, we can experience hardness. So sense is the base, the rupa, also another rupa, which is conditioned by karma. And the hardness, softness can be anything, conditioned by anything. If it's a table, then it's conditioned by heat. If it's your body, then it can be conditioned by one of the. It can also be conditioned by karma. It depends.
So for the kulapas, it's not necessary that it's a living or non-living object.
Right. Living or non-living.
But itself is just a rupa. It does not experience anything.
For you,
The rupa itself, no matter where, is just rupa, one kind of reality that does not experience anything. If it's arising in your body, maybe it's conditioned by karma. the body sense. But the rupa itself is just rupa. It does not experience anything. Same with the hardness here. The hardness of the bone is the same as hardness here. Just rupa, just hardness.
Okay, sir.
Here's a question. Where does consciousness arise? Where does chitta arise?
Sir, now now the rupas are the kulapas.
Yes?
So inside the kulapas there are
No.
no. Like he is full of kulapas. That is also a rupa.
Yeah. That's but where does chitta or nama is distinct from rupa or matter, right? However, chitta needs rupa to arise. Okay. Where does chitta arise right now? Where is it arising? It needs rupa to arise. It arises at a rupa. It's what the sense base.
Let me give you a hint. There is seeing now.
Yes, sir.
So where do you think the seeing arises?
Sir, in memory mind.
Seeing?
No, it has a physical place that it arises.
You mean to say even if I
Close
close
my eyes, they can be seen.
So seeing actually arises at the eye base.
In the eye, sir.
Yeah, at the very center of the eye, conventionally. Where does say my finger touches the table here? Where does the chitta that touches there? Where does that arise? Yeah, it arises right where it touches. This is quite an important thing because of our education, we think it's all arising in the brain, but it's not. Sir. It's not arising in the brain.
It's here, sir.
Yes, good.
From here, we
it arises right there. Where
it doesn't matter. That is another story, right? From our education in science,
it goes to the brain, and that is not the way of understanding. The understanding is to understand what appears now. So no story about what was before and what was what's in the future. It's about now. You want to understand the earth element, it's only through touch, not through understanding how the brain works. Nothing to do with brain. The Buddha became enlightened knowing what appears now. He didn't have to think about brain or anything. He never thought in those terms.
And what's the nature of brain?
What's the nature of brain, ma'am? Ma'am, it's brain to analyze, to think. No.
This is what we've been taught since childhood, right?
Exactly, sir.
Exactly.
How many absolute truths are there? How many absolute truths are there? Or ultimate truths?
When people are born and people die, these are the absolute truths.
Abhidhamma, reminding me. What is Abhidhamma?
Absolute truth you are asking.
Cetasika, Rupa, Nibbana.
4.
Only 4.
We used the word Paramatha Dhamma this morning. This is the 4 Paramatha Dhamma.
Whatever you think about without these 3, Citta, Cetasika and Rupa, that's not real. Is Aki real?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
But there is birth.
There was birth, right? But it was not akhil. It was just a chitta.
It was 4 things.
3.
3.
Not Nibbana. Not yet.
Not Nibbana. It was 3.
3, yeah.
So same with
when you say born, live and die, so same every moment it's like that. Even death is just one chitta.
And can anyone see akhil?
Pardon, ma'am?
Can anyone see akhil?
Can anyone see Akhil?
Yes.
Asha better see.
So what do I see now?
You are seeing a Rupa.
Right, exactly. That's the right answer.
Yeah.
See, there's no you.
Yeah.
Answer him.
Yes.
See, there's no you to see.
Sir, I am corrected from yesterday only.
Actually, there's no one, no Akir, because
Yes, ma'am.
there are only Chitta, Cetasika, and Rupa. And what is seen now is only one reality which can be seen. Sound cannot be seen. Cetasika cannot be seen. Nothing can be seen at all except just one reality which is seen now.
See, we are taught in the Abhidhamma that there are 28 rupas. Visible object is one of the 28 rupas. Hardness is one of the 28 rupas. Sound is one of the 28 rupas. Of all the 28 rupas, only one can be seen. Do you understand that?
And that one is, sir?
Try. Just
Which one?
No matter what you call it, it is seen now. It's true. It's
It's
real.
true. That is true.
Yeah.
yeah. So what is it? Which rupa is seen?
And
From the 28 rupas which
He was going to answer.
Sir, which rupa is seen?
Yeah.
can be seen, which
Which
rupa
of the
can be
rupas
seen
can you see?
from the 28 rupas which only Akhil said that only one rupa can be seen. Which one is it?
Sir, which seeing is seen.
Yes. And it sees what?
but seeing cannot be seen.
Seeing is a chitta. What does it see?
A form?
Okay, you call it form, but it's one of the rupas, no matter what you call it. But we call it here visible object.
Or ayat-
That which is seen by the seeing. That is experienced by seeing.
Okay, sir.
So that's just one rupa. And you know that in a day there's so many experiences to the five senses and the mind. It means that that which appears like there's light all the time is just an illusion. Because only one moment of seeing, not even the ones that follows can see. The Santirana, the Sampatichana cannot see. Only seeing sees. One in a trillion other chittas does the function of seeing. The rest is all dark.
He doesn't know what Santirana means.
No, it's one of the chittas that follow it doesn't matter which one, but we know that in a process of seeing.
He doesn't know about the process.
Oh, okay. Maybe.
So can you see a person?
No, ma'am.
Can you say why? Why can't you see a person?
Sir, there is no person.
Yes. So what is seen is?
Seeing is an object, sir, a form.
What's seen? A visible object. Right.
Can you touch a jar?
Touch a jar?
You touch a jar.
Can you touch me?
Can you touch the
Can you
sofa?
touch a jar? Sofa.
Can you touch the sofa?
There is no sofa, sir.
But there is hardness or softness.
There is hardness, softness.
Temperature.
Can you see Chitta?
Chitta can't be seen.
Can you see sound? Can you see hardness?
No.
Can you see Betty?
Betty.
That is real, sir.
It is the only real thing.
Arising and falling away all the time.
So then, understanding this in theory, then what does that achieve?
Oh, you missed this morning. We talked about that.
Ah, okay. Right. This is what I'm always asked by my boyfriend. He understands this, but does he really?
Is it your question?
As well, because I don't think I can explain that well enough.
What is the
But-
question?
You try and explain it.
Try,
first.
try.
What is the question again?
It's a very good question.
So understanding, about the chittas and everything arises and falls, and
Concept and
they're all
reality.
concept realities. Then So we understand it in theory.
What's the
What does
benefit?
that achieve?
What's the benefit?
What's the benefit? Yeah. And so,
Can I just say that for someone who actually understands,
yes.
he sees nothing more valuable,
Right.
right?
Yes,
So there's no
yes.
question about what next.
Right.
He's inclined to want to hear again and again.
Okay, yeah, but what's the benefit?
Okay.
That's not the answer.
There are so many. I
The
think
question usually arises, what's next is that for someone who just knows in paper but has not actually had the understanding that we call pariyati yet. He just knows that what we talk here is a lot of words, and that's what we end up doing, just talking and talking and talking, and nothing is achieved.
Roxanne, Roxanne,
Yes.
any art, which I'm sure you're accomplished in some or something, you have to know the theory.
Yes.
If you want to be a great musician,
Yeah. So that it's a little bit different.
it's not really. It's not really.
No.
It's not really. It's not different in the sense that the more sophisticated your knowledge of any art or any skill is, the better will be your understanding further down the track. So there have to be support conditions to facilitate, in the case of the Dhamma, there have to be support conditions. And part of those support conditions, and we're still very enough to have people like Ajahn around us to help us sort out these different theories and ideas and knowledges that will facilitate the understanding. And the more we consider and think about these in a constructive way, the more it can help with understanding. So theory, or what we call pariyatti, that's part of pariyatti, although that's misunderstood too. It's not just theory. It's theory that needs to be applied. If it's theory just for theory, and there are many people who understand or have read a lot about theory, they might have read the suttas, they might have read the Abhidhamma, but it's possible still to misunderstand the Dhamma. Sorry, now you're going to ask a question here.
Yeah. So I understand that, and so it's more about in the terms of Dhamma. So understanding this, that nothing is permanent, nothing is real in their rupas. So how does that help in terms of Dhamma? That's what I mean.
Oh, you're asking how it helps.
Yes, so
the knowledge, the
gets,
understanding, how understanding helps.
Yes. So how does that further my understanding? Yes.
But is there anything more valuable than just understanding?
How does that further her understanding directly? You can be
Directly to say such reach Nirvana.
Because Dhamma is now. Because one of the understanding that you understand intellectually is that it's now, right here, right now.
Yes.
There's only Dhamma. And what Sundara was pointing to as when you learn an art, it's something I was just thinking about learning the piano. Someone who just learns the piano is not talking about where will this lead. He just continues to learn, right?
Right.
He just continues because he sees the value of learning.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Yes, I like that example. There's no ultimate, maybe there is, but that's, okay, I understand that concept. I like that. Thank you. Yeah.
And of course, there's nothing more valuable than understanding, because it changes the world. You know, the world that we have.
It changes the perception.
It changes our perception of the
Right,
world.
right.
And with the arising of, say, a Buddha in the world, it means that people who are previously living in darkness can live with more light. There'll be more kusala in the world, and that facilitates a lot more comfortable living with each other. Whereas without Dhamma, then life is really difficult. It's already difficult, but it becomes even more difficult. So the more one appreciates Dhamma, the more one sees its incredible value, not only in this world, in other worlds. People may not believe in those, but they do exist. And even those beings in other worlds value profoundly the Dhamma, because it changes lives for the better. So it always needs to be, I think it needs to be applied, as we know, like the case of the piano, which you seem to appreciate, because each time it's done, you get naturally better and better and better. And that skill will then make that person, well, perhaps putting the piano playing aside, but with the Dhamma, with Kusala Dhamma, life is much richer, and also it facilitates more detachment, more letting go, and
yes,
more.
That's what I was kind of
So we
thinking
think
towards, right?
we are kind of based in, not kind of, we are based in ignorance, in the idea we think that there's a self here, we think there's a Betty here, we think there's a Roxanne there, and so forth. And we think all these things have shape and form, and we develop attachment to these things. We're attached to this thing we think is a body. We're attached to the things we like. We like this stuff or we don't like this stuff. Okay? And so that creates this attachment. And the more we understand that these things are impermanent, that they are not self, they're not really shape and form, they're not really things. Okay? And the more we understand that it creates dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, when we want this thing or we don't want this thing, the more we understand that, the more we understand the nature of the realities themselves, how they operate, how they rise and fall, what causes them to rise and fall. This, then, as we grow in understanding, we can detach more from these things because we know these things are not real. For instance, this is my pen. I love my pen. I'm really attached to my pen. Okay? Whereas where there's more understanding of the nature of this thing, that it rises and falls away, the rupas and the kalapa, the kalapas that make up this thing that our mind projects as a pen, we realize, well, gee, it's not a permanent thing. It's a mass of rupas arising and falling away. Why am I attached to it? Why is there an I? Why do I say? Because, well, it's the nature of the language. But the understanding there's no I that needs to be attached to rupas that are just rising and falling away, and that's it. That are, it's not, and there's no shape and form here. It's not, okay, oh yeah, but you're holding it, you can feel it, but what am I actually feeling? What is actually being felt? There's hardness, it's either cold or hot. I mean, in this case, it's kind of cold. It's stationary. It's not vibrating or moving or whatever. And so that's basically what our sense, the tactile, if you want to call it tactile sense, is perceiving. Just those realities. It's temperature. It's cold, hot, whatever. It's hard or soft. In this case, hard. It's not moving or it is moving. Okay? Those are the only realities that make up this thing. And the more we can understand the nature of these things, the less we become attached to them, the more contented we are about daily life. Because we always have attachment to things. Oh, I want my husband to be well.
Ajahn, what would you say
Things like that.
What would you say would be the greatest benefit of the theory?
To understand the truth of everything.
And the advantage of that?
And
the advantage of that, to understand the truth of everything?
The advantage is that if you don't understand, you are ignorant.
But Ajahn, and we see that the difference between you and us when we try to explain things to other people is that when you say that understand everything, And when you begin to talk about everything, you talk about seeing now, hearing now, smelling now. And so I think that what you understand different from us is that so long as people are not interested in understanding what appears, no matter what explanation we give them, it may not be helpful. So you keep talking about seeing now, hearing now, and if someone has the accumulations, good. If not, you cannot help it.
And another thing, Roxanne, too, I remember the Buddha spoke that it's a wonderful thing, it's an amazing thing that when the Buddha speaks and says that things that people think bring them happiness doesn't really bring them happiness, people listen to that, think, oh, maybe that's true. And so there can be a listening more. People may ask, well, why listen to that? Because one knows that little by little there can be, as Kun Betty said there, Mom Betty says, is facilitates more letting go and more contentment, because that's in accordance with the nature of things. The more one understands the nature of things, the more letting go there will be. And as Mom Betty said, that leads to more contentment rather than,
See, Sundara, for someone who does not understand, and for example, he's into meditation, he thinks meditation would lead to that.
Yes.
So he's not going to listen to what your explanation, he's not going to believe it. That's why I brought up this point that you just speak the Dhamma about what appears now, and it's up to the other person.
Well, that's a good point. I'm just getting back to what Roxanne's question was, why all the theory? And unfortunately, a lot of the meditators, as we refer to them sometimes as, they don't value the theory. They don't see that's important. It's like saying to them, they want to play Mozart, so they decide to get a piano themselves without a good teacher and just muddle along. But they won't do it so effectively as if they've got a good teacher, go to the right colleges or support schools that will help them to do really well at that. And we know we need teachers. It's very difficult, unless you're a Buddha in the last life. Even the Buddha in his last life, or many lives, he always sought out wise people who were wiser than himself, which facilitates growth. We need to do that. And we should always look, the Buddha always looked for people who had more wisdom, who he thought more wisdom. And sometimes when he had all the wisdom, people asked him, who was your teacher? He said, I've got no teacher anymore. Because he had all the knowledge. He could not, in some cases, towards the end, he could not even, if he paid respect to somebody there, not nice things would happen. But the more we appreciate wisdom, and the more wisdom is valued, and the more that's adhered to, I bear in mind what Kun Su Kin said, because many people have their own ideas. Even in the Buddha's time, there were all these teachers, there were at least 6 of them that I mentioned, but they had wrong ideas. And it's difficult to find somebody who has the right ideas. That's a real treasure to find, and it just doesn't always happen. Like, who knows where we're going to be born next time, where we will be born. We may not even be born as a human, maybe be born. And to come across something as rare as the Dhamma, that is such a wonderful gift, which is not really appreciated until it's considered. Yeah, there are so many different conditions, but the more, certainly speaking for myself, the more I've appreciated the Dhamma and considered it, I know it has great benefit in all sorts of ways that are almost, I know very often I think, oh my God, I'm so thankful to Ajahn, so grateful for showing me about Dhamma. Unbelievable. It's a gift beyond measure, beyond measure.
The same sentiment would be expressed by Christian. about being grateful and the result of what they believe. So again, in the end, it's just talk about Dhamma and what is true now. I think, Achan, it's the lack of panya, attachment and ignorance which drives us to I know the Buddha was the Buddha. He knew exactly the accumulations of the person he's about to teach. And you, on the other hand, you know that you don't know, but you know what to say, what best to say to the other person. Whereas the rest of us, we get lost in our own agendas. Sometimes we want to convince a relative, a family member, and we try so hard in the wrong way. Or even if in a discussion group, it's just that we just don't have that enough understanding.
When you hear that there is a person who understands everything, would you like to know what he understands? Or just, okay.
I guess I would like to know.
So this is a point that we'd like to understand what Buddha enlightened. Because no one can use the term enlightened or enlightenment at all. It means knowing the truth. And we don't know what the truth is. The truth of what? So those who have condition to see the value of understanding that can be understood, that can be studied, find out who can help one to understand the truth. And consider by yourself after you hear his talk, whether it's true or not. That which nobody have heard before.
And I also wonder, such as I have two other siblings, an older sister and a younger brother, and we were, all three of us, we have the same father, and he has taught us, let's say, the same thing. And I wonder why I am more interested, or I think that I want to learn more. And that difference of why don't they, or why do they feel the way they feel, is that because of conditions from possibly my past, my accumulations? Yeah.
What do you think of that? Why is Roxanne more interested?
Because you are you. See, but you don't know who are you.
I don't know my accumulations. Or,
But the other has no interest in understanding about everything, like people and things all around. But if you can understand, you don't miss the opportunity to understand.
So, Achan, when you earlier asked Roxanne that if you hear that there's someone who understands everything, who knows everything.
The Buddha. I mean the Buddha.
Yes. Would you be interested in listening to him? Roxanne
I would like to run to him and listen.
And Roxanne said yes. And I was thinking many would say yes, but there are people who, when they hear, won't be interested.
Because they don't think about the truth of what is heard.
And also sometimes it's going to depend on many different variables. Like I think of Visakha. One time she went to live, when she was married, she went to live, Visakha was a very famous lay disciple in the Buddha's time. And she went to live with her new husband and her father-in-law. And one day, and he was not a believer. And one day a monk came around visiting that place where she lived, and her father-in-law, Mighara, was eating some food, and he just ignored the monk, or the bhikkhu. And Visakha, when she noticed that the father-in-law was just ignoring the bhikkhu, she said to the bhikkhu, "Move on, sir. my father-in-law is eating stale food that's stale. And the father-in-law was very upset and angry that he had been accused of eating old food. But she then eventually was able to explain to him that what he was eating was a result of past deeds, past good deeds. And he subsequently went along to hear the Buddha, and he became enlightened. The father-in-law became enlightened, Mikara, and he was so grateful that he heard the Buddha, and he having become enlightened. So we don't know, like you mentioned your siblings, it's not maybe the conditions at the moment for the complex and very delicate. So it's hard to say. If you have an opportunity in this life to listen to Dhamma, I would always say to people, sometimes I share it with them, sometimes I know I don't share anything because I know I have a feeling they're not going to be interested. They're captured by other things that are taking their interest and they want to travel or go here and there. Who were drunk, literally drunk. When they heard a few words, they became enlightened. This seems amazing, but because of conditions, and these are so intricate and complicated sometimes. So, yeah, I would always say, maybe not now, but maybe another time that these things can happen. You know, and Dhamma is fascinating in that way. When you read the scriptures, you'll see that's amazing. But you'll also begin to appreciate that that's possible. Given the right conditions, anything is possible. Anything. And the most amazing thing, especially when it comes to Dhamma, amazing things happen.
And sometimes, Achan, it can also be kama chanta, which is an obstacle. Some people here appreciate a little bit, but then attachment to sense objects take them away. That's also possible, isn't it? And I was thinking maybe Robert's style of expressing Dhamma suitable for Roxanne, but not for the other kids. Maybe Sundara's style may be suitable for...
Right, that's so true. My style was simple brainwashing.
But it only worked on me.
I always think that you're very, very fortunate to have a father who values Dhamma. That's a great, wonderful thing.
Yes.
Wonderful thing. We don't, if we know somebody, if we have a, like I think sometimes Kunsuken, he also has a son who is interested in Dhamma. I think, oh wow, well, it would have been wonderful to have a father who truly valued Dhamma, because as we know, we've talked about this many times, what we hear of, what we're taught often is just a lot of nonsense. Mostly we're taught a lot of nonsense sometimes. Parents try to be helpful and they try to give their best, but sometimes they may not be so helpful, and sometimes that's all going to depend on karma and many other variables. But to have a father who understands and appreciates Dhamma, you are very, very blessed. I would say you're very, very fortunate.
It's my accumulations.
Well, partly. Partly, yes.
But in the end, the concept of Kalyana Mitta is, it doesn't matter who, isn't it? To have Kalyana Mitta can be anyone. And it depends on your accumulations and also your past karma.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I'm thinking also that fellow, and sometimes people are very fortunate. I mean, there's cases in the scriptures of a fellow who, Anathapindika's son, also when he had to be bribed to go along to listen to Dhamma. He had to be bribed by giving so much money. Go and listen, pay hundreds hundreds of gold pieces he gave to him. Go and listen. And he eventually went, but he said, you remember a verse and come back to me. And he came back. He remembered the verse, and Anata Pindiga is a very honourable man. He gave him the money, but he saw he didn't understand. He said, this time I want you to go back and tell me a lot more than just a short verse. And he had to really listen and hear very carefully so that when he came back to see his father, because his father offered a lot more money if he remembered a lot more, so he had to listen a lot more carefully. And then he became enlightened. So, and then his father, then he came back, and then the Buddha came back apparently also with him, and Anathapindika tried to give him the money, and he said no. He felt ashamed that he had been he had to be asked to go and listen to Dhamma. He felt ashamed that he had to be bribed because he knew that this amazing thing, this amazing gift.
I think if the Buddha was alive today, then
I do the same thing. Because the Buddha was special, wasn't he?
Roxanne, do you remember when you were kids? I used to say, when we go and visit Ajahn at the foundation, I used to say, whoever asks the question will get the present.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So, Alex Roxanne and Maylee used to go away.
No, my brother was the one that always
Yeah.
got the present. Yeah.
Alex used to ask a good question sometimes, yeah.
He brought that up the other day, actually. Yes. He's good, actually. Yeah. I was talking to him yesterday, and he wants to come to Thailand. He wants to move to Thailand, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. He lives in Japan right now, but
he's working in a big factory as a
big company. Yes,
yeah.
yes. But
So, to Thailand do what?
sorry.
Come to Thailand and do what?
Work for a big company as well, but Japan is very stressful and serious, and he's visited me quite a few times, and he likes Thailand quite a lot. So he's looking for a job. Yeah.
How's the time? How much more time have we got?
We've got an hour. 3 o'clock. What depends on what time we want. 3 o'clock.
Some more questions about the present moment, Akil?
For you, Sukhbir sir, in Lucknow, I will talk in Hindi. ठीक है आपसे लिए आप कुछ अंग्रेजी में बोलिएगा सबको. सर ये जो आप बात अभी ये मैडम पूछ रही थी कि क्यों ये सब हो रहा है, why it's all is happening, what is the reason behind it? You told it's because that you will get the better understanding of the Dhamma. You will get the better understanding of Dhamma. इसलिए ये सब हो रहा है. इसके विषय में क्या है, फॉर्म के विषय में क्या है, उसके अंदर क्या है, उसके अंदर क्या है, ये सारी बातें हो रही थी. फिर एक विषय ये निकल के आता है सर, एक रीज़न ये निकल के आता है कि हर किसी को धम्मा समझ में क्यों नहीं आता है. वाई एवरीबडी इज़ नॉट एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड द धम्मा. सर उसका भी एक रीज़न ये लखनऊ में बात हुई थी, लखनऊ में एक चर्चा हुई, कॉन्फ्रेंस हो रही थी, तो उसमें ये निकल के आया कि जिस पर्सन हु डोंट हैव द कनेक्टिविटी, अगर उसके अंदर से कनेक्टिविटी नहीं है धम्म को लेके, if there is no connectivity from inside, he won't understand Dhamma anymore. उस कनेक्टिविटी के अंदर क्या होना चाहिए? What should be inside the connectivity? सर धातु से मिलता है. Element will mix with that kind of element only. Fire will go to mix with fire. Earth will go to mix with the earth.
Birds of a feather flock together.
Yes. So person who is having the inside a little bit Dhamma, you could explain to him more. But he should have got that kind of a.
Sure, from past lives.
Now, sir, you explain to him.
Now, what he's saying is they had once, Akhil is saying once in Lucknow, in India, where he comes from, they had a kind of discussion there in a group. The same question about why some people are interested, some people are not interested in Dhamma. So, what Akhil's the general conclusion was that there have to be some element inside that person that gets him interested in that particular, any subject actually, but in this case we're talking about Dhamma, that element inside which I think we can understand that if there was no Panya here to appreciate the Dhamma, that we would be interested in the Dhamma. So maybe that's what it comes down to. Yes. The element is the Panya, each person's Panya. So once we hear the words of the Buddha, only when there's Panya arise at that moment, to understand the meaning, to understand the words, will there be the interest, continued interest in that Dhamma. So that's right, because we know that it's one more thing. The Dhamma is the most difficult thing to understand, right? The Buddha, for a moment, didn't think about teaching, because the depth of Dhamma is so great compared to the knowledge, all other knowledges. He's saying that it goes against the thinking of everyone else. So it's so difficult. And therefore, not just hearing once, hearing over lifetimes is required for any particular given lifetime to condition interest. If you heard little bit in previous life, that's not going to happen. You must have heard a lot in many lifetimes. I think Achan, my son, once told me that he heard in one of Achan's tapes that in our round of rebirth, everyone has actually heard the Dhamma, little bit or much. But apparently, some have heard so little and understood so little that in this lifetime, when they hear, they're not interested. And of course, we have all accumulated lots of wrong understanding, and with wrong understanding is attachment, and that's a dangerous thing anyway. That's a big obstacle. So who knows what is arising at that moment? So, for example, if you ask the leader of some cult, a guru, you want him to be interested in Dhamma, very unlikely, because of his strong attachment. Although he may have accumulation, so we can see many obstacles. So yeah. It has to, you're saying the two dhatus must meet.
Yes.
That's very hard. When hearing, Panya arisen to know. That's very hard. That's
dhatu se hi milegi. The dhatu.
That's the great advantage too, I guess, of a Buddha, because he will know what is the most valuable thing. Sometimes, like in the case of, I think of Kisa Gautami, when he said to her, her son was dead and she was just bereft with grief. And he said to her, I want you to go to every house in this town and bring to me 7 sesame seeds from the house that has not known death. So she could not accept that her child had died. Little by little, she went from house to house to house to house. She could not find anybody that had not known death. So there are always, again, and then of course she came back to see the Buddha and realised that death was common to everybody. And this was a trigger for her to listen more carefully and to understand the nature of impermanence at that level. We talked yesterday about marana, conventional death. But that understanding may be a trigger to understand the deeper aspects of impermanence in this present moment. So it can lead on. And so the combinations and variables are sometimes very sophisticated. It's very hard, but I would always say to people, we all know that for a cohesive and healthy society, we need to be more patient and concerned and respectful of each other. And even knowing and appreciating that at that level, we know the value of kusala. So little by little, it's always, I think, a little by little thing.
Exactly.
When we talk about having respect for other people, isn't that a reference to good qualities? Respect for good qualities in the other person?
Yes, because you respect a kusala.
We don't just respect anyone for anything. I mean, why would we respect someone who has wrong view, right? but we can have kindness to everyone.
I wanted to ask a little bit about Sundara. Just now he mentioned about getting enlightened while being drunk. But was he drunk in that moment or no?
Santanti, the minister.
Yeah, but he was not drunk at the moment.
What happened?
Nobody is 100% drunk.
No, it's not quite.
Right? When they're singing, there's no drunk.
What happened was he quelled rebellion. He was the minister of war, so the king rewarded him. So with his rewards, he went out with many consorts for a week, drinking with all these women, and he was completely drunk. But then he, upon seeing the Buddha, the alcohol, he was so impressed, I guess, the alcohol immediately evaporated, and while he was listening, he became enlightened. Yeah. So both of you are kind of right. He was completely drunk, but at the same time, when he became enlightened, all of that drunkenness was gone in that moment.
No, just now you sounded like the alcohol evaporated before there could be enlightenment.
Well, it's almost simultaneously, but how do you define it?
No, because like I said, if you're not 100% all the time drunk, right? Even when you're drunk. So they can be seeing, depending on accumulations, depending on a natural decisive condition, there can be understanding. And I think after that enlightenment, then only the alcohol would have evaporated.
I'm not sure. Do you know that story?
Without condition, there cannot be enlightenment.
Right.
My understanding there of Santati was that he was on the back of an elephant, and when and he had been indulging himself excessively, but upon hearing the Buddha speak, he considered obviously very carefully what he had heard, even in that state, and by degrees, it is said, he subsequently became arahata, and that was the verse where the Buddha said, "What is a bhikkhu?" A bhikkhu is somebody who has understanding, not necessarily has robes on, because Santati became arahata, and he was adorned in all the robes of a very powerful minister. Had all the medals and medallions, no doubt, and accoutrements that a powerful person in that time had. And the Buddha quoted that he, now being enlightened, he was a bhikkhu. He was a true bhikkhu because he had that level of wisdom that penetrated the truth. And in that penetration, no doubt, the alcohol evaporated or disappeared. That I think is one of the amazing conditions of Dhammo. It's amazing things can happen, well, seemingly amazing things can happen when there are the right conditions. Even somebody who was subsequently drunk, a few minutes later was not drunk, because we would know that also he had incredible accumulations from past lives. So there would be a lot of very powerful support conditions for him to actually realize what he had heard was so profoundly true enough to condition enlightenment, and that I can imagine that alcohol would virtually have evaporated, or the effect on the physical body, and we know that nama affects rupa, so that was one of the factors there.
So the message is we can drink or not?
No, definitely not. That's not helpful. I think, and as we know, people do ask us, and we were talking a little bit about this earlier on, and we said perhaps we can speak to Ajahn about, you asked about, we're talking about Pisuna Vacha, and yeah, you perhaps...
No, you asked.
Oh, okay. Well, I was talking to Robert during the lunch break, Ajahn, and I was talking about Pisuna Vacha, Well, sometimes translators slanderous speech about other people, or malicious speech about other people that may be. Well, a lot of people say that it's only slander when it's untrue. If you say something about somebody behind their back, pisuna, which is a goblin who, you say something unkind about somebody behind their back, it happens to be false, is pisuna wacha. And my understanding, even if it's true and you speak maliciously about somebody behind their back, it's still pisuna wacha.
And I was querying that because I thought if it's true, it wouldn't be a kusala kamapatha. But Sundara was saying...
But what is the result of saying so?
Well, someone gets hurt. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So is it...
Intention is to get hurt.
Yeah, it's probably... Yeah. So even if it's true and you're talking behind their back with the intention to be hurtful, is it then a kusala kamapatha, even if it's true?
Because there must be some intention
Yes.
to say so.
Yes. You're deliberately hurting.
When it's kusala, it cannot speak.
No, obviously it's akusala. I know it's akusala, but I'm thinking, is it...
An intention?
But is it a kusala kamapatha?
To hurt the other.
Yes.
And it's spoken
Yes.
already.
So it's to that level, even if it's true.
And nobody can know exactly the karma.
It can be. It could be a kusala kamapatha. Okay. You were right, Sundara. Thank you. Lucky you brought that up.
I'm trying to remember now the context and where we were talking about this. Just going back before, we were talking about speech during our lunch break, about why speech, in the case of somebody, like when you spread rumours about a certain, say, religious belief, even though it's not lying, you might be not, it might not be pisuna wacha, it might not be parusa wacha, but it might be sampapalapa. We've talked about this before, Ajahn. When can sampapalapa be a kusala kamapatha? Have you got any examples there?
When it hurts or harms the others.
Yes, yeah. Even though it's not the other three, but something that...
Sampapalapa, that's harsh speech.
No, that's like frivolous talk.
Oh, frivolous,
empty talk. Like, just say talking about people, and other people can be very offended by it.
But Ajahn, there's no intention to hurt when it's sampapalapa. It's just frivolous talk.
So in the degrees of intention.
And given the degree of intention, and if it ends up hurting, it becomes kamapatha.
When it's all the, what you call it, the five.
Factors.
Yeah. Do you mind much about that?
No. Just...
Well, knowing about it quite...
Just for yourself, not to do like that again?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Mm-hmm. Because knowing the seriousness of doing such a thing might restrain you in the future.
What is better?
What's better?
Than just thinking about that and try to gain something from understanding for yourself.
Okay.
To understand reality as uncontrollable.
Of course, that's the best, yes.
And it's always now, John. Isn't it? All that we talk about is kusala, akusala, but when is it? It's not just story.
So when you read Tipitaka or listen to the word of Dhamma, what's the intention at that moment?
Just to understand more about my life.
About yourself? So it's you who's listening?
Not really. I mean, it's...
But if you understand that exactly there's no one at all, then it is the best way to listen to the Dhamma, to understand, no matter what words Buddha said, it's about non-self, no one.
No, what I'm trying to point out now is that
For example,
we have a story about what is kusala deed, what is akusala deed, but if you don't know the quality of the chitta when it appears, kusala when it appears, akusala when it appears, then it's useless. Then it's bound to be the idea of self who wants to do this, does this, avoids that, and it's not that helpful.
As long as there's the idea of I and the others. One will born again and again, die again and again all the time. Because reality is very difficult to understand, even it appears, and even listening to the Buddha's words, know how much it is. It's not enough, never enough. As long as there is a deeper understanding of reality as not self. Because we cling to the subject, to the story, and the way how to be better, try to be the good person for oneself. Not to go to hell, not to be born like such and such. But actually the best thing is to understand that it's a reality momentarily, very short. What about last moment? It's gone, unknowingly all the time. And it is always like this. Never understand whatever appears.
It seems, yes. Even sometimes when you say, example just now, you said, what about last moment? It's gone and never to arise again. Even this can help.
Yeah.
Because it's understanding that it's all anatta.
Mm-hmm. Before there can be letting go, it has to be right understanding of that very moment. And the understanding itself lets go. Not that I will try to let go.
Then I have to leave.
Okay.
I'll be late if I go later.
Okay.
Traffic and everything. See you tomorrow. Yes, see you. Thank you, John.
ค่ะพรุ่งนี้วันเสาร์
วันเสาร์
ไปที่มูลนิธิใช่ไหมคะ
แล้วมาใหม่วันจันทร์
ค่ะ อาจจะมีแขก
9:30
ค่ะ
อาจจะมีแขกอาจารย์มีแขก
ไม่ใช่ค่ะ ที่มูลนิธิอาจจะมีคนใหม่มา
อ๋อ
ถ้าไม่มีใครเลย
หมายถึงอาจารย์
วันเสาร์
อยากให้เราไปที่นู่นใช่ไหม
แล้วแต่ค่ะจะตามใจ
ไป
ที่ไหน
ที่
ก็
นู่น
ได้
ดีกว่าวันเสาร์เผื่อมีคนอื่นด้วยยิ่งคนที่มาประจำอย่างคนไทยเขาก็
คนไทยไม่จำเป็น ไม่จำเป็นเลยค่ะ เพราะว่าภาษาไทยมีมากกว่าภาษาอังกฤษ
So what do you say
แต่คุณไปอย่างดี
ไปดีกว่า
แล้ววันอาทิตย์คุณสุขีมาที่นี่ไหมคะ
ไม่อาทิตย์มากัน
มา
แค่
วัน
3 คน
มาวันจันทร์
มาวันจันทร์วันอังคารก็ไม่มี
ค่ะ วันอังคารไปมูลนิธิค่ะ
Okay.
Sukin, is that your bag?
Oh, right.
Thank you very much, Sukin. That's very useful.
ค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ
Sorry.
So a few more questions and then we're going to wind up. Do you have any more questions, Roxanne?
Not right now.
What about Akil?
Akil, yes.
Anybody what you all are discussing now? I'm thinking in the evening.
Sorry?
ไม่เข้าใจ
Everything which you all are discussing here now, I'm thinking in the evening.
How are you going to think about
Okay.
it?
I'm thinking about the
That's
evening.
tomorrow.
Yes.
You can also take the text.
I've taken it.
How do you take it?
the article
Ma'am,
Article with the
I
Cambodia
see.
article.
He already took it home, right? Yesterday?
Yes.
ma'am,
have you read
in India, we talk about the Mara. Understanding the Dhamma is the victory over the Mara.
over Mara what is Mara there how
Ma'am,
many
neg-
kind of Mara
Ma'am, I won't be able to tell how many kinds of Mara are there. But for me, how I perceive the Mara is that if you are going to Mara सा वही ना मार हाँ if धम के कार को ब्रेक करता है like if you are going to work according to the Dhamma, any work, how we take it, and its breaks up. If the work is not complete, we say, Mar, the condition which breaks that movement, that works, we say, Mar doesn't want this work should be done.
What about Kilesa Mara?
Kilesha Mara. Ma'am, I don't know.
In the absolute truth.
It's true.
Yeah. Kusala can be Mara, cannot hinder the wholesomeness, so wholesome moment. But anything which hinder the wholesomeness is Mara. So it's your own Kilesa. Nobody can do anything at all. No one can put the Buddha on the unwholesome manner because he's no Kilesa. So Kilesa, one's own Kilesa, is Mara.
It's one type of Mara.
One kind.
One kind of Mara.
And it's also the Deva who's Mara as well. Hinder the enlightenment of the Buddha. The Mara came to see him and asked him to pass away, but because he doesn't want anyone to listen to the teachings anymore. That is Mara. So it depends on the reality of Mara. The akusala, the kilesa is Mara.
Okay, ma'am.
In the absolute truth.
बोलो.
ऐसे समझा दीजिए कि मान लीजिए हम धब के कार के लिए यहाँ
बता दिया वो.
नहीं, अगर इनके एक्सीडेंट हो गया उस कारण से हम नहीं आ पाए तो उस एक्सीडेंट को भी मार बोलेंगे कि हमें धम के कार को नहीं करने दिया.
Ma'am, she is saying, suppose she is going for one work of the Dhamma. She got the accident in between. That work is not completed.
Majjumara.
She is saying because of Mara.
Because of Majjumara.
Majjumara.
A kind of Mara.
Yeah. This is third. One is Kalesh.
Kilesa Mara.
And one is
Tepabut Mara. Teva Mara.
Deva Mara.
Okay. Even Teva can have ill intention.
And third one you told, ma'am?
Kilesa Mara. Kilesa. One's own Kilesa.
Majjumara.
Majjumara is death.
Is death.
Mm-hmm. If one is going to listen to the Dhamma and the accident happened and she died, Majjumara. No opportunity to listen to the Dhamma. Even she intends to do.
Victory over the Mara is understanding of the Dhamma. People say in Lucknow.
And Mara can be any enemy of kusala or wholesomeness, yeah. Like one own kilesa.
Like what?
One's own kilesa. You'd like to listen to the Dhamma, but you would like to do other thing else better. See? Why do you think of Mara?
A lot of the things was today we debated here about the understanding. She arises the question, what is the use of it? All the things here. So Sukhbir sir was telling it's because that you better understand the Dhamma. Now I was thinking that what are the factors which interrupts as I want to understand the Dhamma.
Can anyone stop you?
Pardon, ma'am?
Can anyone stop you to listen?
No, ma'am. No.
Mm-hmm. So that cannot be Mara.
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. मार नहीं हो सकती.
Are you Mara? Sometimes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
If I'm not taking the right decision, it means
usually we think of the others, but not one's own. One always thinks of the other, but not one's own kilesa, one's own accumulation, one's own understanding. Many people would like the other to understand Dhamma, but when that person has no interest, that person just feels bad. One's own kilesa mara. So when we talk about kilesa mara, it can be any moment of akusala.
I think that's a very good point you've made there, Ajahn, that mostly we're concerned about other people's kilesa, not our own. And certainly at the moment of being, if we're out with other people, it can seem that the other person who doesn't, the other person is the problem. And really that can be so destructive and so unhelpful and so dishonest also, that when we think it's the other person, when really that's not in accordance with Dhamma. It's the more we can understand and appreciate that, we will see their disadvantages in blaming other people, because really they do not cause the problem. That's a very good point.
what is dhatu, ma'am?
Dhatu, the nature of reality. The element, it means that no one can change its nature or its dhatu. Is kilesa dhatu? Dhatu is another word for Dhamma.
For Dhamma.
Yes, each Dhamma is each dhatu. No one can change its characteristic at all. No one can change sweet into salty.
It is a nature of reality.
Right. Another way to talk about Dhamma by way of dhatu. When we talk about Dhamma, we talk about the reality, that which is real. But when we talk about dhatu, the reality which is real, nobody can change. So there are not just one word for each reality, like Dhamma, Paramada Dhamma, Abhidhamma, and dhatu. The same. Who consider more and more and more that these are all Dhamma. No one, no self at all. No one can do anything, because actually there's no self. There are only different realities conditioned in a day. Is the hair Dhamma? The hair. Is it Dhamma?
Dhatu.
Yes. Or Paramada Dhamma or Abhidhamma.
Yes,
exactly the same. It cannot be
even
changed.
it means that Abhidhamma itself is a reality.
Reality, what does it mean? That which is real is true.
Yeah.
No one can change its characteristic.
It's a nature. It's a reality.
So many words are used for this. Dhamma, Paramada Dhamma, Abhidhamma, dhatu. The same. So anyone who doesn't understand Paramada Dhamma comes across the word dhatu, they don't know what is dhatu. But when one knows that everything which arises and falls away, no matter what, whether it can experience an object or not, since it's real, it has its own characteristic, it's conditioned to arise and fall away. Every one is Dhamma, is dhatu. So there is Jakku dhatu, the eye sense or the eye base itself. It's not the ear-based, different from that which is seen, that which is heard. Each one has its own characteristic. So no one can change it because it arises by conditions and falls away instantly. How can you change that, which arises and falls away in split seconds? So what it's born and what dies, no one.
It's nature of realities.
Different realities.
Different realities.
Yeah.
It can never be changed. It can't be changed.
And they can be understood too, little by little. The reality which appears is another dhatu. So there are so many different ways of classifying, Dhamma, be it dhatu or ayatana or paticcasamuppada. Dhamma is just classified in so many different ways by way of khandha. So it's just another way to help. Some people might understand khandha better than they understand dhatu. But as Ajahn was saying, the word dhatu is connected with Dhamma. And the word Dhamma means that which sustains and holds. The root is dha, which it means that which sustains or holds reality. So in the case of dhatu, as Ajahn was talking about, saying with the chakru dhatu, it is the reality that enables seeing. Without chakru dhatu, there wouldn't be seeing. So we can immediately apply it to our own understanding and enable the slow putting together of the Dhamma. And we can see that it's not just a word, it can be understood in relationship to Dhamma in the bigger picture. It's part of the structure that's needed, or that's needed, that's essential, that's vital for Dhamma to be, without dhatu, without ayatana, without khandha, without paticcasamuppada. The Dhamma doesn't exist, but they all have one sound, anatta. They all have the sound of anatta.
Impermanent.
That too, but not self. They all have that aspect to it. There's no self there. Dhamma does not have a self, ultimately.
Ma'am, anatta, no self.
Yes.
Anitya, impermanent.
Anicca.
Anicca. Anitya, anicca, एक ही बात है. Same. समझिए.
Atta is Atman in Sanskrit. Atman. So anatta means no atta.
No atma, ma'am.
Is it atta?
Anatta.
This one? So, is this atta? Nothing is atta at all. Everything is anatta. Because atta means that which is permanent. I. See? But what's the I? Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching? No, that's not I. Seeing must be only seeing. Nobody can change the characteristic of seeing which arises to see. It cannot do anything, just arises to see. A dhatu. So everything which is real is dhatu, another word of Dhamma. And when you hear the word anatta, it must be dhatu. As everything which is real is Dhamma. Whatever is real is Dhamma, it is dhatu. The chakku dhatu, the sound, satta, dhatu. Everything which is real is dhatu. It means that actually there's no one, no being at all. Only different realities arise by conditions and fall away immediately, all the time. And that can be experienced directly. Because Buddha is the first one who has experienced the truth of everything, enlightened the truth. So he taught us to understand what is the reality of whatever we take for something. Can there be the akirtatu? No. Can seeing be a bird, a cat, a dog? Seeing. See?
Seeing be there.
It's now. It's now. All dhatus are now. A dhatu is heard. Another dhatu hears. Sound is a dhatu. Whisper object is a dhatu. Nobody can do anything. Nobody can condition it to arise at all. Whatever arises is conditioned by many, many conditions. Even the eye is conditioned by kamma, different color, see? Brown, black, blue. Who can do that? Who can make it different? No one. But the kamma can. So powerful. Today, we are here, we use the word we, represent many realities, seeing, hearing, smelling, this. And tomorrow it can be at other world. And is there world? There is no you, no I here now. So is there any world? At moment when a reality arises and right understanding as its truth, like it is that which experience and it's that which is experience. No place, nowhere. So in Pali, the word loka, which the Thai use the word lok, means whatever arises and falls away is loka. And the idea of the place comes after. Here is Thailand, and the other place is Japan, India, see? But the seeing itself just arises and see and then falls away instantly. Nowhere to go. Extinction immediately, like the fire. When it's gone, never to return at all. What was that a moment ago? Never found again. Gone completely. But ignorance is there. So only the vipassana jnana and the enlightenment can eradicate the idea of self and wrong understanding of the permanency, because it directly experiences that which arises and then falls away, one at a time. But now everything appears at once. How can one experience the arising and falling away of the other one? It's gone completely. So what we like, it means that we like that which is gone. No more. But the succession of the arising and falling away condition the permanent thing, because it succeeds so very rapidly. That's why it cannot be experienced by ignorance. Only right understanding begins to understand the nature of reality as not self at all, because they are different. Seeing is not hearing, it's not thinking. And no one can do anything. While we are talking, they're seeing. No one makes it arising, but it seems like it's there all the time. That's why there must be the moment of experiencing the arising and the falling, but not one at all. It has to be the nimitta all the time, the succession of just one characteristic, one nimitta. So citta has nimitta of itself, of the seeing, hearing, smelling, because so many processes of seeing before there can be the idea of someone or something here and now. Because actually a moment cannot be shape and form, but so many moments. Because when you draw a picture, you start with one point. What is that? Snake, house, road? You know, you don't know yet. But when you make it more and more, and the nimitta is there to be known. But actually it has to be from one moment to another moment. So the illusion of the succession of the realities arising and fall away condition ignorance and takes it, because when there is nothing arise at all, there cannot be conditioned for attachment because it's not experienced. But when whatever arises, ignorance is there and attachment, clinging to that object is there because of the succession of reality hides or conceals the reality that which is not permanent as permanent. No snake, no bird, no fish, no being, because it's only the moment of arising of citta and cetasika and rupa by conditions. So no one can stop the arising and falling away of reality, but how can it not arise again anymore? The end of the arising and falling, it has to be the understanding, the condition for its arising. When we do not understand the condition, we think that I can do. But actually, that is thinking, which arises to think that way and then fall away. So thinking is not seeing. That's why now there is seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. Uppatti. No one can do anything. It's like accident, but actually it's conditioned by karma. And karma is that which no one can know. At this moment, is it karma? See? Listening to Dhamma, understanding the Dhamma, is it karma? Yes, it's kusala karma. And it conditioned the moment of birth to have panya, right understanding, with it at moment of birth. Because it is accumulated from this moment on and on and on and on. And the sankhara khanda, the 50 cetasikas, not I, not me, are now working its way. So this moment conditioned the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. So many conditions from years and years ago. So we don't know. Even this moment is conditioned by the accumulation of moments ago in samsara. If there is no seeing right now and no sanya cetasika memory, you don't know what's what at all. So at moment of knowing what is what, it's not you, it's that reality which arises with each citta. So each moment is gone completely, never to return. You like something very much, actually you like nothing because it's gone. That which you like is gone. So you cling to the idea of something's there because it keeps on arising and falling away by conditions. Right. Mm-hmm. So this moment is not past moment at all.
It's just
New, all the time. And the condition for life is karma. Nobody can know when will the end of it. Anytime. And death is not frightened at all. Because it's just like when you fall fast asleep. At moment of birth, no one knows. The karma condition it to arise at the right time. Just that moment, no one can make it arise. And this is just like that. So at moment of being born, the world does not appear like when you are fasting asleep, nothing appears. It seems like it's lost completely. Not me, no one. Who am I? No idea at all. But the citta, which arise and fall, experience the same object as patisanti, the moment of birth. So the moment of birth is conditioned by karma. Just one moment is not enough to be the result of a karma. So the karma, it depends on whether it will condition how many years or days or months to be this person. And when it's time, the right time to die, no one knows, because it's like moment of birth and moment of being fast asleep. After the birth consciousness has fallen away, what succeeds is the one which is produced by karma, exactly the same karma. Because just one moment of being born is not enough. After being born, there must be seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, which is not the cause, but is the result of the same karma, which conditioned birth. So we don't know how many moments pass on to be pavanka, keep on, life continuum, until time comes, the right time to hear or to see or to smell. No one knows. It's like when one is fainted and one what do you call? We don't know what will be the way, seeing or hearing or smell or touch at all. So we don't know what will be next moment, being seeing or thinking or touching, or are conditioned by many conditions. So we talk about the cause, which are the action or the deeds, intention to do. Such intention produce the citta, which is the result, not to the other, but to you, to the moment of thinking, of intending to do, or to have such and such deeds done. When will you die? There must be death, but nobody knows, because it's like at moment of being fast asleep. The moment of birth is not known, and the moment of pavanka, which follow, succeeds the moment of birth instantly. Keep on going, life continues. And when it's time for death, it does not perform the function of life continuum of pavanka anymore. It performs the function of just leave this world, no more experience as this person again. And the patisanti follows immediately, succeeds the two cittas so close. So when death has gone, the patisanti follows immediately. So when we were born without knowing where we are from last life, and when this life is past life of next life, when next life comes, we don't know what we have done in this life. Sitting here or listen to this, unknown completely. Like when the door closed, you cannot see what is there in the room. And it keeps on being this, because these are realities which nobody can make it arise, and nobody can stop the way it is, arising and falling very, very fast in split seconds. So it seems like permanent world, permanent self, permanent I all the time. But what was past moment? What's there in that past moment? Gone completely. From day to day, from moment to moment, it's only the arising and falling away of the dhatu, the element, which no one cannot do anything, because actually there's no self, no one. Only different realities arise together, fall away together, and condition the next moment all the time. Until no condition for the arising of realities right now anymore. And that is not death, but it's the enlightenment, understanding what conditions is now and at any time, and understanding it as no one at all, permanently, like at moment of experience, the arising of reality right now. At this moment, it seems like so many things arise together, but when it comes to the direct understanding, only one reality is the object. Because Citta can experience only one thing at a time. So now many things, seeing many different people, uncountable moments of reality, Citta arise to experience, and the reality which cannot experience is conditioned as well by different conditions. Unknown until Buddha became enlightened and taught the truth to the world. And this is only one life of samsara. What about last life and next life? Unknown. Next life is not this one anymore, not this person. So there can be this person only in this life, short or long, we don't know. But there must be next life, next person, succeed this moment unexpectedly. Maybe in heaven or in hell, we don't know.
Uncontrollable.
And the good, wholesome cause condition the good result. What condition different form of the body, the eye, the nose, see? No one knows. But to be born human being is the result of wholesome cause, wholesome karma. Understanding this, it conditions more kusala in a day. And at moment of kusala, the akusala cannot arise. But in a day, if there's no understanding of kusala and akusala, we don't know what is the right or wholesome cause. For example, who knows that after seeing now has fallen away, the vipaka, the karma, condition, the citta which succeeds seeing to be a moment of receiving the same object, but not see. Even it experience, it does not see. Like when we close one's eyes, we touch, but we do not see. But that same object for the receiving consciousness, which is conditioned by karma, to arise after seeing immediately. The other citta cannot arise by way of anantara paccaya, non-stop. It has to produce another one, succeeded all the time, one by one. And this one is called sampatichana, the receiving consciousness, receiving the same object which seeing sees. So it seems like seeing is long, but actually it's one moment. Even the other moment experiences the same object, but it does not see. Seeing is just a moment. So how many cittas of seeing? It seems like we see many things at once, but actually it cannot be at the same time at all. And after receiving consciousness, the other one which follows succeed the receiving consciousness is investigating consciousness, and another one after this is that which people used to say that it decide or make decision to be kusala or akusala, but it's not right. The Bodhapana, but it's not determined at all. It just make way for kusala and akusala, which is accumulated to be kusala or kusala at the right time. See, and what is there after that? 3 moments. How fast it is. Kusala and akusala arise as asava, very, very fade or not strong at all, unknowingly. Because we know akusala, when it's strong enough to be recognized as sorrow or the moment when we like or dislike. But actually, there are many moments in between. So we learn about many jittas and jitasikas to know that it's impossible to have just one moment of seeing to appear as it is, because so very, very little and go away very soon. As soon as it arises, it falls away. It seems like that. But no one knows, because only one moment cannot be known. That's why in Tipitaka it says that each reality has nimitta because of the arising and falling away. Just like one dot cannot be known as what, but many dots. Their succession condition the form or the nimitta, the shape and form. And it's not known yet as something, because it's only seeing, it's only receiving, because it's only a moment which experiences the object through the eyes. It cannot know the shape and form as something yet. So the nimitta is known. The nimitta of rupa is rupa, and the nimitta of vedana, nimitta of sanya, nimitta of the 5 khandhas are known, one at a time. So we live in the world of nimitta and the world of remembering, memory. As soon as we open one's eye, the world of memory is there. This is what is known, only memory. Not knowing that it's only the reality which arises to remember, to mark the object which is seen, which is nimitta. So without Paramada Dhamma, there's no nimitta. And when there are Paramada Dhammas, there are nimittas, and the mitta made known as something is paññatti. So paññatti is the moment when it makes known from seeing or understanding or experiencing the mark of shape and form, the shape and form of reality. So it's quite complicated, very, very deep.
So, Ajahn, could you speak to the...
ขอโทษค่ะ ค่ะค่ะค่ะคุณโรเบิร์ตจะอยู่กรุงเทพอีกนานไหมคะ
Is it Sunday? วันอาทิตย์
วันอาทิตย์
วันอาทิตย์ไปวัน Sunday no Sunday วันอาทิตย์ไปโตเกียว
เลยค่ะอ๋อค่ะ
When you are friendly, when you are kind, when you help another, when you respect your parents, you are living what the Buddha taught. You are living what the Buddha taught. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. alive.